Scrappies.
Welcome to the Ancestral Unity Summit. And we are, of course, the Global Climate Movement. And with me, my co-host, Amos Kepler, who is the first leader of the Green Party in West Norway. Take it away, Amos. What has been happening in this collapsing world since last week?
Well, the coral reefs are toast, really, even more than they were before. As we both know, the tipping points for the coral reefs happened 20 years ago, give or take. But there was a major article in the public Norwegian public broadcasting website today about it. And Alaska has gotten a taste of the future. Of course, most of its coastline has been flattened by a typhoon. Not a hurricane, a typhoon, which is even worse, I guess. And we have had 15 degrees as a daytime temperature in Western Norway to this date, which is unprecedented, of course. Aside from that, human society is getting nuttier than ever. There's just no end to it, really. I've stopped speculating of how bad it can be. There is no limit to it. Our so-called leaders are just taking 10 turns for the worse every fucking day.
I think you're right there. And I would like to comment a bit. Well, also something on Anna-Lena Baerbock, of course, and Brundtland. But first, I would like to comment on the Bezos report. Is Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon?
Yes.
He is the funder of that so-called tipping point report. And while it is correct, as you said, that they tipped or they started going bad 20 years ago, the corals, I mean, it's also incidentally a problem that Mr. Bezos has a tech fix for. So he would like you and me, every taxpayer in the world, to pay for his techno fix for the coral reef problem. And that may also incidentally be why he declared coral reefs to be the first ever tipping point on this planet. It's strange how these things are often connected, right? Are you there? Oh dear. I hope you can hear me, because I sure as hell don't hear you. Well, and okay, you were there.
I can hear you.
That's good. Yeah. So,
as I said, every single solution presented to us by those in charge is a bad one, really. Both designed to not work and or make people so pissed at the attempts at calming the climate change that they don't want it to happen. They don't want the fix to happen anymore.
No.
Even if they are committing suicide. So collective suicide.
So the funny thing is that things that peer-reviewed science papers declared having tipped their tipping points 25 years ago, like the Greenland ice sheet, and also the Arctic sea ice, they somehow have not been declared to have passed the tipping point. And it seems that it works like this: that if nobody has a way to profit from a problem, then it's just undeclared, right? It's about to tip, may tip very soon. The window for having it untipped is closing very fast. Blah blah blah. You know, the things they've been saying for quarter century now. But if a billionaire has a machine or a way to make artificial coral reefs, or to grow them in a lab or something, so he stands to make billions from the quote-unquote solution, then they are immediately tipped, or he can pay, a number of $1 million to pay for, let's say, relatively poor social scientists and stuff who are hired to sign their name on the report, and then that report incidentally concludes with what Mr. Bezos wanted it to conclude with, right? So it's kind of like follow the money, the old saying, follow the money, if you want to know why certain things quote unquote have not tipped. So it's kind of frustrating because it looked pretty good when you look into it, but when you go into the depths, it's kind of stinking more and more. Hello, T-Wall. Can I call you T? T-Wallum. Welcome back.
Yes, it has to be money involved. If there isn't money involved, it won't be done. If they can't turn a profit, it won't be done. That's more important than anything, of course, obviously so. Yes, and it's a major part of why the world is so fucked up. The human society has long since become inhuman, basically, not set to help humanity even anymore, and certainly not life on Earth in general.
Did I mention the World Economic Forum, the WEF?
No, you didn't.
The WEF is, of course, deeply involved also in this so-called tipping point report, and it's kind of like what's in it for them. The thing that is in it for Mr. Bezos of Amazon is to sell his tech fix, but for the World Economic Forum, they want to have their so-called global governance model deployed, some kind of one world government for the climate, that kind of stuff. That the old madman, what's his name again? This German guy. Yeah, so it's kind of his wet dream since the 70s to take over and have a private kind of rich man's United Nations. And yeah, so then the more you sort of dig into under the surface of this global climate global tipping point report, it's kind of all kinds of maggots emerging and skeletons in the closet and all of that jazz. Yeah.
Yes, the World Economic Forum is every speaker there sounds completely nuts, of course. There is no rationality there at all. You have to throw the dice in order to find out who is nuttier, really. But they share that with any so-called leaders in the Western world. There's very little difference. There's no significant difference between them. They are just a Norwegian budget, national budget, was released today, and it's on a smaller scale, of course, but it's the same disregard for humans, for the poor, and for everyone, and it's made by a so-called labor government. This Labour government isn't as crazy or a nutters as the UK Labour government, but they are getting there. Believe me, they are getting there.
Yeah. I also looked into the United Nations, and last week we played the opening speech from the former failed Green Party leader and Foreign Secretary Annalena Baerbock from Germany. She is now the president of the UN General Assembly, and when she made a reference to there not having been any female secretary generals in her speech, that was not just a stray thought or anything. That was actually her confirming that she is very much a candidate to become the first Secretary General. And when I looked also into Gro Harlem Brundtland, the kind of the inventor of the green lie or the climate deception, from also from Europe, from Norway, she was actually kind of snubbed or robbed of the position as the Secretary General. She was on a very clear track to be the hottest candidate for that job. But politics and horse trading and all that kind of stuff meant that they found one or two other men to take the job before her, and now she's like 87 years old and kind of not a going thing now. So what's going to happen is that Anna-Lena, as another kind of fake green candidate and also a woman, she is going to be the next Secretary General if nothing surprising happens. And so it kind of threw me into some reflections about the global climate movement, which has been confirmed to be the largest, the biggest political movement of all times among humans. And I think in order for it to get these positions and to grow and become so vast and become the biggest movement, it first has to go fake, right? That seems to be step one in order to expand. It has to be corrupted, infiltrated by the usual suspects, by capitalists and big oil and all of these guys. And then it's ready to expand. So that's kind of because if you look closer into it, the Brundtland is not sort of the sole, the only person to have deceived us within the green movement. It's more like she was a pioneer for deceiving people, for telling the young people about what the green movement is about. It's about this kind of expansion of oil and gas extraction. The first thing she did in the following decade after she wrote the Our Common Future report for the UN was to remove any constraint for oil extraction in the North Sea for Norway, for the Statoil oil company. They used to have some kind of ceiling, a constraint for you can't extract more than this million numbers of barrels or something per year. But she removed it completely, and she doubled the extraction in the first 5 or 10 years after she wrote this kind of very flowery, rosy report about sustainability for the UN. So she's an all-round bad person, you could say, or at least deceptive person. But she's not. She didn't invent that kind of thing herself. She was hired by Maurice Strong, a Canadian former oil executive, right, who wanted her to write the Our Common Future report. And I think, bottom line, I think for Brundtland herself, it was kind of just good career moves. When she was asked to write the report, it was a good career move. She said yes. And when she was asked to head up the WHO, the World Health Organization, she said yes again, because she knew it was kind of a step on the way to Secretary General for the entire UN. And when she was asked to be the special envoy for climate change under the previous General Secretary, I think, she said yes to that as well. And so she's kind of a clever girl, or what you call it. She does all the right things so that she can go straight all the way to the top and sort of be the queen of the world or something. So there's no idealism. There's no kind of deep ecology. It's just if I do as you tell me, then I can have a comfy job and $5 million salary or whatever, right? So.
Yeah, there is no limit to how much big oil has fucked humanity, really. Every time you believe you have heard it all, you hear more. So you can say that about all major business efforts, of course, but I still believe big oil, big B, big O, has done an outstanding #1 job, really. They didn't just hide it all for 50 years. They also prepared for when it went public, when the truth went public, because they obviously anticipated it. They knew it would happen sooner or later, no matter how many so-called scientists they bribed. So they have clearly committed crimes against humanity as well. There's no doubt whatsoever about that. Yes, they have used enormous amounts of money for the bribery and for the fake research material to be released and through peer reviews, so-called peer reviews, and so on. So if you are really looking, there is a lot of competition, of course, there always is. But if you're looking for the villain with the big V, a giant V, big oil, and their executives are at the very top of the heap.
That sounds reasonable. It's kind of, when there are no constraints on corruption, and it's just about having an advisor and being a bit clever, then of course every political party in every kind of Western nation will be corrupted, and that's why all the political parties, you as an individual have been kind of curious about or a member of. They all turn out the same way. They all have the same power dynamics, and they know how to navigate, let's say, other opinions and rid themselves of difficult members and all of that stuff. So that the only people you can choose among, quote unquote, choose at the election is kind of the slimy, the apparatchiks, right? So that the people who pose no threat to the leaders or to the regime, or that kind of thing. And if you're on the wrong side of that divide, you will be fought viciously by every kind of method known to man. You will be bad-mouthed by the media, you will be harassed by the security state, that kind of stuff. So it's a wonderful world we are living in.
Yes, may you live in interesting time. The old Chinese curse is more valid than ever. That's for sure. But I wouldn't say it isn't interesting, but that's because I'm, at least in part, an intellectual to a rational being. I have to analyze stuff, even if it is horrible, really. As I said, if you're really looking at the news today or yesterday or all the yesterdays, I can imagine really, at least years back, many years back, many decades back, really. It's just shit. All of the so-called positive news aren't that at all. They are just distractions, more distractions. The distractions are so very important, of course. If people start thinking, start acting on their thoughts and everything, the society would change irrevocably. And those in charge can't have that, of course.
It's what you always say. You say that they lie all the time, and they lie by telling the truth. So when Jeff Bezos came out with this report this week about the global climate tipping points, he headlined with coral reefs having crossed a tipping point, which kind of is a lie because it tipped 10 or 20 years ago. And then the rest of the report is saying that, oh, no, sea ice hasn't tipped. No, and it has not tipped at all, and it can't tip. It's impossible for it to tip because there is winter. After summer there's winter, so it grows back. So that's kind of their scientific evidence that it can't tip because it gets cold in the winter. So that makes no sense. And they go on to lie about Greenland not having tipped, West Antarctica not having crossed a tipping point. And the only sea ice that may tip is the Antarctic sea ice. Again, no reasoning behind it. It's just they just wrote a report and it turned out this way. So they say one true thing, that the coral reefs have crossed the tipping points, but all of the other tipping elements, 16 or something, named in the report, they claim that those haven't tipped. It's the first one to tip is the coral reefs, I say. And actually, they have this 16-point list of other close to near tipping Earth Arctic sea ice didn't even make the list. It's so untippable, according to Jeff Bezos, that it doesn't even belong on the list of things that might tip in the future. So that's pretty incredible.
I think I saw a fact in the report as well that that the temperature had only, quote unquote, risen about 1.2 degrees since since the start of industrial revolution, which is bullshit. Of course, it is close to 2.0 by now. So they
Yes,
are lying by telling a few truths.
yeah.
By misdirection, of course. They are
I think
they are
actually
really masters.
yeah, they are. I think actually
They are masters at misdirection.
the Paris agreement, or the COP in Paris, or the editor team that wrote the report and the agreement. I think they were able to be so vague about when this pre-industrial period had been, that they ended up more or less using 1900, year 1900, as the meteorological start of industrialization. But everybody who has read any history knows that it started in the late 1600s, I think, the industrial
Late 1700s, the 17th century, yes.
17th,
But the
but
16,
that's the 1600s are the 17th
yes,
century.
that's.
Right?
I was confused by there were two stuff, two things too, but eventually no longer really.
So
It's really
so
simple.
they're lying by at least 200 years, just in when they start sort of the clock, or the temperature uh, clock, when they say 2 degrees above pre-industrial. Then pre-industrial in their uh, spreadsheets is like the 1900, the year 1900 temperature, in many cases.
Which is one more amazing deception, of course. Like you pointed out, anyone who has studied basic history know that the Industrial Revolution started, yes, about almost 400 years ago, 350 years ago. Let's say 300 years ago, to be on the safe side, right?
Yep.
It wouldn't
Yep.
matter. It still is twice as long back in time as they operate with.
Absolutely.
They are currently operating about. So the exact number they are lying about is incidental, totally without consequence. It's just garbage out, garbage in, as usual.
They're kind of using 1900 because they have better data. They have better measurements from 1900 than from
Yeah,
1800. But that's like
1880, yes,
yeah
1880. They started doing the serious measuring
yeah.
of the
But
temperature.
that's like the man who lost his keys on the street, right? And so he's asked. It's a joke, of course. So he's asked by a passerby, "What are you doing?" "I'm looking for my keys." And so, did you lose them under this light post? "No, I lost them over there, but it's too dark over there, so I'm looking under the light post." You know?
That was actually funny.
So that's kind of the thing they're
Really.
doing. They're not putting the pre-industrial to a year before the industrial revolution. They're putting it like 200 years after the start of the industrial revolution. And I also believe that they are planning to do the same for the tipping of the Greenland ice tipping point, because, as I said, Michaela King, a US a glaciologist, a glacier scientist, she headed together with her team, she had the science work in Greenland and published a peer-reviewed report saying that pretty much in the year 2000, 2001, thereabouts, the Greenland ice sheet had passed a tipping point, right? And then she was interviewed, and she came to fish.org and all these other science news places, and that was good. And she talked about the tipping point of Greenland. But all of these stories that were written about Greenland tipping, if you posted them on Facebook, you would get a warning about climate change, blah blah. Only the UN knows what's happening to the climate, and you got a warning that this story about this science report from Greenland, you should be careful about it because it was I think they used a fact check or something on it. Of course, these kids working for the fact checker had no idea about glaciology or climate or anything. They just did what they were told, and sort of gave this scientist a strike for saying something new about uh, the Greenland ice sheet, right? So, but what I was going to say is that this happened in the year 2000. That's a quarter century ago. Now that it happened, the report came 5 years ago, but they look at historical data. And if you look at so-called climate scientists looking forward in time to make an assessment of when it's going to tip, they typically say the year 2100. So they are planning to allow, quote unquote, to allow Greenland to tip its tipping point by 100 years. In these days, everybody is on Twitter, everybody is communicating digitally, hour by hour. They're trying to make a huge scam and sort of save the tipping of Greenland ice sheet by a century, by a fucking century, right? And it's only these kind of dirty politics, horse trading things explaining why they're doing it. It's because nobody can make money from declaring it tipped, and a lot of readers of the news are going to be sad that day, that afternoon. That kind of reasoning for not just telling it like it is, right? Or trying to falsify the report, or So science is kind of it's very dependent on the people doing the science and their managers and the deans of the universities or whatever, right? So science is a good process. It's sort of the rules of how you're going to do the research, but it's not better than the people who are in power within that field of science, because social shenanigans and power struggles and stuff, politics is always kind of putting their military boots on the neck of the actual truth, the actual scientific truth.
Yes, as I said, the James Hansen, if he hadn't had such a belief in technology to solve it.
I believe we lost your audio.
Better now. Okay,
Much
and
better.
I was talking about James Hansen. If he hadn't had such a belief in the power of technology, they would probably not have given him much leeway either. but he is such a powerful figure that they probably didn't have any choice. He has said, among other things, it comes well to repeat that that the ocean will rise 3 meters in just 50 years, and he has even pointed out that is insufficient. It is an underrated claim. So it will probably rise far more than 3 meters. I guess perhaps he was speaking in code, right? He couldn't tell the truth because they would come after him then. But he did anyway. There are some of us that are able to draw basic conclusions, really. He called it an underrated, that his claim was underrated.
Mm.
So that means that most cities on Earth, coastal cities, will be flooded in just a decade or so, and that is a modest claim, really.
Yep.
It can happen at any time. If the west ice in the Antarctic drop into the sea, it will be 6 meters in just weeks.
Yeah.
Probably more than 6 meters too, because it will be less at the spot it is dropping, and more in the rest of the world.
Yeah, because
And
of
anyway,
gravity.
that will just signify the drop of the rest of the west ice is more or less protecting the eastern ice, the massive eastern ice, from melting fast
Yeah.
too. So that's if anything, that is the major tipping point, really. If the west ice, Antarctic and east west ice is dropping into the sea, goodbye civilization in just yes, weeks. We are talking about weeks, because
Hello, Jon. Please take the mic if you want to. I just wanted to mention that it's only 2 days ago that I found another kind of write-up or a list of findings, climate findings that are still not in the IPCC reports and the climate models, right? It's kind of everything. It's the permafrost. It's swamps. It's thing after thing after thing that they are discovering about the climate system have yet to be written into the climate models. So what the models are doing is constantly underreporting and under dramatizing how bad it will actually be, and it's kind of a naive project to try to model the entire Earth and the oceans and the forests and atmosphere and everything. They should just basically give it up and try to understand basic geology, ecology instead, I think, because try to simulate this in a computer game kind of model. I don't think that's ever going to happen. And when they try to make their policies based on those very unrealistic climate models, it's like you said, it's shitty and shit out, right?
oh yes, it's they don't get the basics right. They've underestimated, quote unquote, again, the climate change from the start, deliberately, of course. But and they don't give up. They postpone every discovery, like we have illustrated so much today deliberately. They don't want people to panic, of course, unless it's their panic. So, so that is we are being deceived about everything. Like we keep saying, they lie all the time, also by telling the truth, by misdirection. So how can how can you solve anything when you are not uh, knowing about the problem? If you don't properly know the problem, that's that is stupid or greedy or both. Greed is stupid, of course. It's so beyond stupid.
Absolutely. And we have our second co-host. Welcome, Robert. You're very welcome. I have to say I'm sorry for the ending of last week's show where there were two Roberts and my brain
Yeah,
couldn't compile. I thought there was only one Robert, and I asked Robert to take us out of the
yeah,
episode, and the
I
guest
got it. I got it.
and Robert the guest started taking us out, and then
yeah.
I
Yes.
you know punished him for trying to do that, and I just messed up everything.
No, it's quite
Hello,
all right.
Robert.
Yeah, hello, going south. Don't worry about it, brother. These things are sent. Indeed, it was a chuckle. I have to say, no worries at all going south. It's a very easy mistake to make, brother, when there are two people with the same name in the room. Delighted to join you here as a second co-host. Thank you for inviting me to the microphone going south. It is appreciated, brother. And indeed, a big hello and appreciation to you, Amos, as well, as my fellow co-host. It's great to see you, Amos. Good to see you here, brother.
Likewise.
Indeed.
Likewise.
John, I want to send a big hello of appreciation to you, John. I see you here with us. It's great to see you, brother. And T, my brother T as well. Absolutely love you, T. Great to see you. And of course, Extinctionati, as far as I know, is an extension of yourself. Indeed, going south. So, indeed, we continue this conversation. I am joining a little later. I do apologize, my fellow friends. A couple of issues, but I am here now. Delighted to be here. Always an excellent space with brilliant content, Amos, and going south. I thank you for continuing to have the fortitude and dedication to continue to hold these room spaces of yours on a Wednesday. Much appreciated. Indeed, as we continue this conversation, talking about the ill of society and everything within the structures that bring us to the knees, indeed, bring 8+ billion people to their knees. And we'll continue to do so under the same old, failed, tired structural elements of which continue to play out on this planet. I know that all of us are no strangers to talking about this until we are blue in the collective face, to quote an old phrase. But continue to talk about it, we undoubtedly will, because there has to be what I call either a global awakening or a global disappearance under the ashes and the waves. It's our choice, it's our call, it is our watch, if you will. And humanity has made all the wrong decisions. It has chosen the wrong paths. It has decided on the wrong mindsets. It has committed itself to the wrong ideologies, and it continues to do so. It can rise itself above what is collectively sending it, as Amos so brilliantly puts many times, collective suicide. It can rise above it. Is it mentally capable of doing it? I still have my doubts about that. I will be completely and utterly blindingly honest. But I do believe that it is possible for a proportion of humanity to get real on the climate and environmental emergency. when I say a proportion. Many of you might ask me, what percentage of a proportion do I think is possible? What I think is possible is this: an awakening of mindsets doesn't have to be exclusively entitled for decades ahead on a timescale capsule lapse, if you will. We can collectively, even as environmentalists now, broadcasting our voices for the greater good of the way things should, will, and must be. We can, what I call collectively, put that forcible element and elements of vocal intent across on a global stage. How do we do that, you might ask? I have many encapsulations and indeed many observations in order to guide, nurture, steer, educate, excuse me, well, my voice goes, apologies about that, and understand the situation for what it undoubtedly is. Educational properties, you might ask again. How do we gain them? How do we grasp what we do not collectively understand? How do we lift ourselves up from the pits and the bowels of ignorance? There are many ways of doing that, but it starts indeed with wanting to be mentally focused with a responsible attitude. Responsible attitudes are in very short supply on this earth. I only need to collectively look at indeed the commercial and indeed the what I call the manufacturing suicide continues to be full scale annihilation wipeout of the usual business as usual ideologies which continue to persist. It's called the big buck. It's called making sure that you have your manufacturing plants and indeed organizations on full stretch capacity to annihilate nature in its entirety, to remove every last tiniest particle of the resources that Mother Nature freely gives you. Not the testament of testaments that you would want to share with your children. I think not. But the problem is that indeed, as adults, we shun responsibility to our own adults. So why would we show responsibility to our children? Indeed, it's a good question, and one that I do not delve into too deeply, because I know only too well that there are vast swathes of adults who are parents that do not have responsibility built into their DNA or their veins. If they did, they would not be engaging in the, as to quote Amos's words, yet again, the collective suicide of which we are only too basking the glory in and have done for countless decades. The ills and the sins of the fathers. Yes, there are many of them. Why are they continuing to linger and persist like flies around a honeypot? Because of the structural imbalances within every single semblance of our societies. That is why. We have political parties that, as I've said too many times before, are nothing but extremities of the extraction industry. You have political figures who you think are on your side. You think because you have elected these individuals, they care and they want to act for the greater good of your surroundings, your communities, your environments. Wrong. They don't. They never did. It is because the public have yet to realize that most political figures, indeed, most political parties across this planet, if not nearly all, are dedicated, yes, to the chain of wipeout of our environments. I grant you that. But they are dedicated to far more imbalance than that. They are dedicated to robbing not just yourself, but your children of any semblance of a future, because this full-scale war on nature has not finished, not at all. In fact, it's still lingering in the ashes of what I call the discontent of everything that we see around us. Why do we indeed have to continue, you might ask, to settle for what I call a second best of nature's balance at every single particle of existence? Because as a public, we've been brainwashed in our entirety. We continue to be every single day. Thanks to the media age, yes, technologies have declared a full scale war on not just nature around us, but indeed a full-scale war of indoctrinating people's brains and young people's brains, I might add, to complete and utter oblivion, and continue to do so. We only need to look and see that people are basking in the technology revolution at a cost to the very semblance or any particle of nature's heartbeat in its entirety. We wonder why, indeed, some of us, how it could possibly be that a collective amount of people could be indoctrinated to such extreme and all-encompassing levels. There's a very good reason for that. This social indoctrination is not something that has been coming on over the last 5 or 10 years. Dear me, no. This social indoctrination has been coming on for countless decades, but it has become more acute. And with the digital technological age, which has robbed people's brains of understanding what emergencies, realities, and indeed the concepts of the realities of the degradation and the collapse of our environments truly are, we have come to this impasse of mental imbalance in its entirety throughout mass systemic hordes of the global population on this earth. It is without doubt as serious as it gets. We talk at length about this week in, week out, not just within these Wednesday live spaces of yours, going south in Amos, but indeed in my own live spaces as I continue to promote with the Climate and Human Rights Cafe. Indeed, and in the Climate Crisis Club as well. We continue to talk about these imbalances because we know damn well that every particle of nature, even as I speak and I say these words in this digital room now, are disintegrating. As each word I utter, there is more nature lost. There is more systems gone. There is more species destroyed, annihilated. There is more ecological systems lost, damaged, irreparably tarred, and disappearing. Indeed, beneath the collective, what I call ashes, dust, and water, and flooding. Indeed, as we continue to see new heights of removal of nature's precious bounty, as the days, weeks, and months go on, how much more of it are we intending to lose? You might add, we will lose the lot if we continue along this destructive path of annihilation. It's why I continue to press the education button with all my might, vocally and dexterously as I possibly can do, because I feel although one person like myself cannot change the entire thing, God knows I wish I could, it is possible for me to be forceful enough with a vocal voice on a global stage platform of which I am totally and utterly dedicated, as everyone knows me, knows I am. I will continue to sound the alarm louder than any trumpet, louder than any siren, louder than any beacon, as I know you do yourselves, my friends, dedicated to the cause of bringing an environmental consciousness like no other to as many people as possible. Because this is a situation that calls for redefining vocally how we communicate with the general public. That's 8+ billion people that need as many mindsets to be turned around as possible. It's not impossible to turn around as many mindsets. What we must not do is dwell and think that we cannot exercise vocally the deafening sound of change that needs to be put in place in order to force every single government, to force every single political leader, to force every single politician on earth to change course. And while we're at it, we need to force every single corporate company and manufacturing unit on the planet to think again about its passport to annihilation and the way it conducts itself with every single manufacturing process on Earth. It all has to change. Indeed, I'm going to take a pause. Going south, your views and thoughts on my words, my friend, would be appreciated, and Amos too. I hand the microphone back to you, my friend.
Thank you, Robert. I have been researching the new global tipping points report from Jeff Bezos, from the Amazon CEO, almost all night. So I'm kind of sleepy. So I'm hoping for T and John and Amos and yourself to kind of carry the show. We need you guys, I can. I must just administrate tonight. I don't have that much energy in me anymore today.
No, that's quite all right. Yeah, Amos, microphone.
The madman is really running the show, right? They are crying the mad gospel every single day, and they are applauded for doing so. So if we could, expose the entire masquerade, it would help, really. It isn't enough in itself, because some people tend to go right-wing, extreme right-wing, when their illusions are removed. So you have to encourage them to not do that while all their illusions are removed from life. But they need to lose their illusions about both about themselves and humanity, and the inhuman society we are existing in. Really, it is possible to change society in just 1 or 2 generations by teaching the children critical thought. The quandary is how to do that, because the teachers, the current so-called teachers, quote unquote, again, they are just an integrated part of the establishment. So they don't want to change anything either. So the children must learn from alternative sources. And we are those alternative sources, really. Not only must we expose the lie, but we must expose the illusion as well, really. Expose all the deception people are taught from the cradle to the grave. You just listen to the tape recorders. They out and die in. They don't return anything. They haven't been recording. They haven't been told to talk. As Stephen Biko said in his famous words, the biggest tool of the oppressors are the oppressed. The oppressed are taught to brainwash themselves, almost. So everything we are told is important, isn't everything we are, almost everything we are taught is important, isn't everything we are taught is unimportant, is, and so on. It's so twisted, so beyond twisted that it can hardly be worse, except it can always be worse, unfortunately. So we can have the major tipping points, of course. We can reach the major tipping points. We can even transform the Earth into the new Venus if we are unlucky. By the way, we talked about that too, how one scientist claimed that we couldn't reach the Venus tipping point, but he was exposed as just another big oil fraud, I believe, a few years ago, or at least his theory was proven wrong, at the very least that. So So we should be able to convince people, because there is a need for major changes, a massive need for major changes. I have no problem saying that people like us have the solution, really. We have the solution for so many things. So yes, we should just keep trying to convince people. We can't do anything else, really. That's a sad fact. We need to just step up further.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amos. Indeed, being as going south is giving me the collective reins, if you will. I'm going to take a pause. Great words there from you, Amos. I do want to elaborate on a few more of those, brother. You're absolutely right. I'm glad that you are dedicated and committed indeed in the mindset that I know you are. We continue to push new boundaries. We will push ahead and we will redefine the educational process for indeed 8+ billion people. We will redefine the educational process for every single child on earth to be collectively in line with the understanding fundamentally of why nature is the guiding principle and lifeblood and lifeline of every single one of our existences and every one of us as human beings on this earth. I will take a pause. I have a lot more to say. John, I want to bring you to the microphone, brother. Thanks for being patient. Great to see you here, John. What would you like to share with the room?
Yes, greetings, Robert, Going
Hi,
South,
John.
and Amos, and hello, Yaz, and Extinction. I guess, well, there's been a lot spoken, and I think I was in a Twitter space maybe 2 years ago, and it was, stuff that I didn't fully understand, but it was like there was we'd already passed a glacier melting tipping point, and this was a space, I think, Elliot Jacobson. I don't usually like to mention other Twitter accounts, but basically it was a room full of like scientists who had been following it, and they could see the calculations into the future in terms of, and it was a very somber. It was like tragic, like the emotion and what do you do now, type of thing. So I don't fully understand it, but I understand that. I mean, I just think probably we're past most of the tipping points. I don't know. So I'm kind of not. I'm not usually someone who. I guess I have like. I I I hope for the best, but I plan for the worst, kind of thing. So I have to be realistic. Um, so, and I think that at some level, the society, it's like filtered out to them that, yeah, it's like, it's really bad. And they can't verbalize it at their conscious level, and they don't fully understand it logically. So they're just acting out like everything we see. It's like people going for their land grabs and what they really, what they've always aspired to do. And if they're in power to do so, they're doing that. And if you're not in power, you just are reacting to that. And yeah, so on that note, I guess just to respond to, also, it's a different topic, but what Amos just said about the schools, and I just think anecdotally of my sister, who well, and I don't want to dox anyone. Okay, so, but like she was in teaching, and she was like way more radical about environmentalism before me. Like she's send me all the stuff, and it would make changes in her life to try. She'd always instill in her students like a love of nature and environmentalism, kind of like whatever the curriculum was. It was like tying it. But I guess that has to happen on an individual level, because these teaching systems, these school boards, they just burn out the teachers. They just overload them. Too many students. It's almost more of a discipline. Like you're spending more time trying to get people to listen, or it's so it's such a tiring and burnout and thankless type of job. And but they come back, they go back in every year and try to inspire, but I'm sure kind of what you guys are saying, it's like it's way worse, and we need to learn. I think going south, you said we need to learn basic ecology, and so I'm just coming to sort of learn what are you guys saying and what are you trying to do. In terms of the last time I came into this space, you guys said bring the green to the city, which I'm always looking up, like moss. I'm very interested in moss. I want to go on a little expedition to gather some moss and then grow a little garden for myself, so I know how it works, because right now it's all about cutting open some food, getting the seeds, figure out how the seeds propagate. And I have no training, so I'm just trying to learn like an artist, sort of trial and error. And that way, hopefully more people that have an indoor life are going to use more of the indoor space to do this kind of stuff. And that's going to gradually just end up being, probably, if we get to that point, like how we got to grow our food, probably, I'm thinking. Because you're seeing stuff like abandoned malls are being converted to grow operations, or like there's vertical farming things. Now I'm curious to know if you guys are like, what's the point of that? Because like it's all over anyways, or if it's like, yeah. So these are kind of my thoughts and questions
Thanks, John.
for you.
Yeah.
Yes,
thank
I can
you.
say
Yeah,
I studied the vertical farming and everything. I'm part of a group too, as well. That some of us, at least, are growing our own vegetables. So, but we need to go far beyond that, of course. We need to transform a building into a greenhouse, really, both outside and inside, to get our own electricity through various means, but to do everything on the local level. Not by destroying more nature, but not by chopping down more forests, like the establishment is doing. We need to make truly autonomous communities where we can get everything we need to survive and even thrive at the local level, at the walking distance. If we do that, we can. There will be a return to nature, and also an independence from those taking a huge, giving us huge electricity bills and huge food bills and everything. The point isn't just to give us to stop climate change and the extinction and everything. It is to give us a much better life. In addition to that, like a scientist, I don't remember which or who they say that, but we are saving the world by creating a greater world for humanity. And that's what we should do, and it's entirely possible. Yeah. The question is if there is enough will to do it, and it won't make itself, because we have so much. We have such a powerful resistance, powerful oppression, tyranny against us. So we need to do it in spite of those forces. Those forces will do anything. They have shown that they will do anything to stop us. They will fight us every little step of the way, every step of the way, really. So one hope is that they are so stupid that they don't see what we are doing, right? We are just a bunch of squatters in a big city, making plants cover our buildings. Then in a few years, we won't need to buy their electricity anymore or their food and anything. The only thing that will cost anything are luxuries, which we don't really need anyway. It's just a way of the bread. It's just a part of the bread and circuses dominating today's society. But what I'm talking about, if implemented, will eventually become that irresistible force we need to make true changes and survive and thrive. We need to try, at least. If we don't try, we won't succeed, of course. Thank you. I can. By the way, I can talk about this. I have extensive knowledge about all of this. I can talk about it for hours, and I have on my blog amoskepler.com. It's late for me too. Just a moment here. Substack.com. amoskepler.substack.com, and I have lots of articles about how to live and how to survive and how to make a different world. All my books, all my novels, most of my novels at least, are about that too. So again, I can talk about it for hours or days to those who want to listen, really. And I've written millions of words about it, quite frankly. Millions. Thank you.
Thanks, Amos. Indeed, some fantastic words from you there, brother, that we need to hear. And I have always said this, that your observations and indeed your writings are the lifeblood, in my opinion, to the way that we redefine and we repurpose and we re-understand as a collective society globally in humanity just what is now needed, how we need to raise the bar at every single level in order to take on board these principles of sustainability that indeed you define to us so expertly and brilliantly well. I thank you for doing that as we continue this quest, as I call it, of bringing educational properties within the ability for us mentally to redefine our purpose and our understandings as collective human beings out on the street, understanding what we need to do. John's excellent points there, brother. I thank you for sharing them, John. Indeed, asking the vital questions. How do we repurpose our thinking? How do we repurpose our abilities within our own societal and community structures to be fit for purpose ecologically and indeed environmentally and indeed sustainably? These are all qualities that need to be put into what I call the collective spotlight under the microscope like never before. Before I utter another word, I also want to welcome Mina, Nanda, indeed Yaz and Nancy to the room. Welcome, my friends. Thank you for joining us here. It's great to see you all as we continue indeed this conversation of conversations, as I put it, if my vocabulary will behave itself. Indeed, repurposing situations to be to the greater good of our survival. It's more vital than ever before. Why is it vital? Because of the collective need for us to understand and repurpose and understand globally why sustainability is the vital link and links to us as human beings, as a human species, collectively getting to grips with the annihilation that continues to threaten our very existences by the second, the hour, the day, the month, and indeed the year. Why do we need to re-educate ourselves? Those of us out of the room, not least in the room, we know this only too well. Why do we need to re-educate ourselves, those of us listening out of the room? Well, I will be as clear and concise as I've always been on the subject of environmental and sustainable and ecological responsibility. It is about bringing levels of sustainability that have been lost, that have been degraded, that have been annihilated, that have been removed, that have been simply squandered for the usual wanton, selfish reasons of undiluted greed across this earth. We as human beings have been very adept and adapting at bringing greed to our doorsteps at every conceivable level. I think actually, before I say another word, indeed, Nanda does want a request going south. I think you've got the ability going south to do the request over my co-hosting. Indeed, we hope to bring Manda up. I do hope you can bring Nanda up on the microphone going south as I continue a few more words before we have more hands. Indeed, repurposing of sustainability. Well, I tell you this, it is the difference between life and death. The moment collective suicide is inbuilt into every waking nuance of indeed our mindsets. But as I've said so many times before, it doesn't have to be. We can even now repurpose our collective societies, but the vital elements here, I put them into play in the words in the room again, are the collective ability for us to repurpose our communities, our local communities, because our local communities will be the flourishing lifeblood of all if we are sensible, dedicated, and responsible enough to allow them to flourish in their entirety. We have to allow those vital elements, indeed, of bringing our local levels of what I call integration of environmental safeguarding and indeed sustainable, not just food practices, but indeed sustainable energy practices, green environmental energy practices, of which I see on so many scales, in so many different levels of scale across geographically across our earth. I continue to see a lot of good being brought, indeed, with green energy projects that continue to redefine our abilities to be more environmentally bracing, more environmentally aware, and more environmentally encompassing with what I call the values of understanding now that removing fossil fuels from the equation is the number one priority here. In fact, we cannot continue this boom to the death fossil fuels mantra that continues to persist on this earth. Before I indeed hand the microphone over, I want to welcome Artisans of the Spirit. Great to see you here, Artisans. Thank you for joining us, my friend. As indeed, I'm going to hand the microphone over. I've got a lot more to say. That will wait. I want to hand the microphone over to Nanda, who has a hand up. Nanda, a warm welcome to the room, my friend. What would you like to share with us on the microphone?
Hey everybody, thank you for that. I'm not sure what you were talking before I came in, but just listening to your last words, I mean, for me, and I'm gonna be always the rebel in that kind of conversation, it's sort of like we need to bring also into the equation the differences or the perception, if you want to, for how we experience, let's say, extractivism. or how we experience, let's say, equality, or how we experience the language. That in most of the cases, there is a big factor of colonialism on top. So I think we need to restart, or start to reclaim the territory in our bodies, to connect with the nature, connect with the memory of nature, connect with the words that unite us. That is, the words is not just words; they have a meaning, and they have a purpose. Coming from, let's say, the very bad so-called global south, I think we suffer different things. Perhaps I live in let's separate it from in the global north, in the very top, as a sort of, not top, but I mean in the north, and it's a very wealthy sort of north. So I see perhaps the misunderstanding and the ignorance. It's not that they want it, it's not that they teach them, it's not their fault, I guess, the new generations, but I see the ignorance of, for example, I was 2 weeks ago in Utrecht, in University of Utrecht, giving a presenting an article that we wrote about uh, ecocide extractivism in the so-called let's say, green EU green sort of transition, where we do a criticism about the magic legalism, and also the contradiction of expecting the law is going to fix it all. And also, we created a glossary just to explain the concepts. For example, we call them, let's say, resources, or some people are a little bit more clever, let's call it natural resources. We call them common goods, or patrimony, natural patrimony. The little concepts that actually change a little bit the perception of things, and also explain what's happening in nature when we have certain, in this side of the world where I am right now, we have certain needs, needs of, so sort of like, capitalism have driven us to a certain, let's say, level of needs, very important needs, electric bikes, electric this, changing our phones, but maybe we don't really talk about it. But I mean, when we explain about the extraction of lithium in this conference, that it was basically conceptualizing ecocide in specific, we explain how is the lithium extracted and what it does to the salt flats in the desert where I come from, and people was appalled. I mean, they couldn't grasp the destruction and the amount of crap that is being used to extract the lithium, and the processes, and the devastation it leave behind. So, and also it's a limit. It's a sort of not, it's not a never-ending, let's say, resource, or let's say natural resources, right? So we need to push, and we need to talk. We need to show them. We need to talk, and we need to give the spaces, as I always say, to the indigenous and to the communities, to be the frontliners of the communications and tell us what are their experiences. So for me, that's kind of like, we can be super well educated in this side of the world. We can have all the education, all the access, and all the privilege. But for me, is that privilege is destroying us. So when we find, let's say, ecosystems, or let's say justice and equality, and decolonizing the language, and maybe perhaps one day we can talk in our own languages in these conferences, where we need to come with the the foreigner language for, let's say, the scholars to understand us. and we need to push a little bit the agenda into bringing the testimonies from the mouth of the people who experience the destructivism. I'm a little bit tired of all these people who get grants and go to other places and can investigate about one thing and a bit of romanticize the destruction and bring in the tales and the stories and the papers and everything and the studies and maybe the mapping to explain in a very narrow way. The perception is not an education, it's just it's a very little part of it. So when there is no testimonies of the people that actually experience the injustice, just to not put more extractivism in it, the story doesn't get told. So for me, that's the criticism that I mean, my heart, let's say, ache every time that I go to these places, because I hate to figure or show up in these places where I feel that I am not the representative of the voice, or the let's say the voice of the people. I mean, I feel like almost embarrassed, because it's not my role to talk for them. Yes, I can tell the story a little bit of what's happening, but it's not me who should be telling the stories, or it shouldn't be us in our team be writing the stories. Yes, we are doing a lot of things to record the testimonies, especially from the indigenous, for where I come from, because they're going away, and we need to have that story. The memory is so important to actually uh, sort of like to rebuild the map of nature and how restore that nature that we are losing, we are forgetting. So that's my take today. I mean, I always try to push a little bit more in the angry side. Today I don't have so much energy because, of course, there's other things that um, more important right now. But I think we need to consider also that our language and our words, they have an impact. Um, and as we want in this global south, we are trying to decolonize our language. We are trying to decolonize. And yes, no more fossil fuels. But I mean, we need to understand that the rhetoric of progress and jobs and all that it comes with extraction, with mining, with all this, it sort of leave us in the same sort of position. We are the hippies. We don't want the progress. We want to boycott the mining, and we want to destroy the economy because blah blah blah. And it's like we don't want to stop anything. We want to change the ways. I mean, there is no injection of any kind of technology in destruction, either lithium or copper, or the so-called green hydrogen that is destroying our fjords and our Patagonia, or in many other places where it's happening. It's like the concept of, I don't know, green transition in this case, or sustainability is a very much in this sort of like and I'm not meaning to undermine what you were saying, Robert. I'm just saying that there is in a general sort of sense of words that the people use out there to actually simplify what is actually happening. And we sort of like try to erase the voices of, or let's say, the struggles that many communities around the South Asia, Africa, South America, we are experiencing. So that's for me something very deep in my very deep core of non-white person. You know, I'm white, but I don't consider myself white because I am mixed. So when the people see me, they see me as a normal person, and also they sort of assume things, and and yes, I have the privilege to live in another country, experience different things, and but I carry the burden to actually open the doors for my peers to speak out. But there is no space for other languages. There is no either a translator or there's no budget for the translator, so we need to accommodate to these so-called I don't know, academics or spaces, or let's say lobby or politicians or whatever. It's exhausting. It's really, really, really exhausting without any budget, because there is no budget for us from the global south. It's only European or North Americans or whatever, the richest, who can actually go and do the job. But we never get paid for the travel. We pay for our expenses. They give us books or chocolates after talking and all that kind of things. But I mean, it's kind of embarrassing, to be honest. But that's it. I finished there. Otherwise, I can go forever.
Thank you indeed, Nanda. Some excellent points there. It is your words. I am with them, at one with them, in their entirety. I can assure you. The observations that you have shared there perfectly encompass the views, to my mind, of the way things need to be seen by many, many more people across the globe, across our planet. They are not indeed people in their entirety, not understanding these observations, these principles that you've so excellently put out into the room. And I will say it's an ongoing educational process in order to get those understandings, of which you've excellently put there, Nanda, to a global public audience, because it is the way, to my mind, of indeed shaping this, what I call the great societal change that now needs to be encompassed. And my God, it is one hell of a change. Indeed, the principles of us having to be able to reform and reshape and repurpose how we live on this planet have never been greater in our human history, to my mind. But in order to be able to repurpose what our social status is as human beings, if I can put it like that, and what our status is in terms of understanding that because we have put annihilation, we have pressed the annihilation button in favor of the sustainability button, if you were. And that is, of course, something of which has been critically apparent in our downfall and continues to be so, I'm sorry to have to say. Repurposing for the right reasons. I've been talking about this for a very, very long time. But structurally, I know that every single government on earth mentally is not wired up to take responsibility. And neither are the politicians and the leaders who are the figureheads of disappointment and failure that continue to be put in those places, that continue to persist in basking in failure because of mindset inadequacies at every single level. Repurposement, yes. How we reshape entire societies, that is another matter. That will, what I call, dexterous involvement of removing those that are not fit for purpose and are not worthy of guiding us as people on this planet. They must be removed. We cannot have people in governmental situations which continue to persist with having no ecological, environmental, democratic, or indeed sustainable veins running through their systems at all. It is not at any, what I call, collective level of the greater good to be able to continue to persist in thinking that the same toxic mindset ideologies can guide us through the decades to come. They can't. They never will. And they never did. And having said that, I have a lot more observational content to share. But we have Amos back with us as co-host. I'm very delighted to see that, Amos. And Amos, I hope the connection is good, brother, because I want to hand the microphone over to you while I put some charge in my phone. So I do want you, if you can, Amos, to take the reins.
Yes. I can do that. I had to restart my phone again. I don't know what's wrong. The technology lasted for 85 minutes today before it went high wire. So that's good, I guess. I just want to say that my solutions will work after the collapse as well. Really, it will the truly independent autonomous societies, communities, will be better able than most people to survive the collapse of civilization and the bottleneck, like we call it, eventual and such. So there is no reason to not doing it for most people. It's I can. It's a better life in any way. I have lived in a squatted community, in several squatted communities actually. So I can attest to its greatness, and we managed to not quarrel too much either. There were disagreements, of course, but I wouldn't call them quarrels. I guess we talked about it for some time, really, how some squatted communities, autonomous communities, buckled under the pressure of the outside society, outside human society. But we were prepared for it, and we didn't allow our problems to affect us that much, really. We knew that we weren't the problem, quite frankly. So we acted against our enemy, or the tyranny, the oppression governing the current inhuman, insane, you name it, society. Lunatic society. I love that. So it's entirely possible, and there are always empty buildings you can go to, but it's more difficult, of course, if you had to do it if you're not prepared for it. If economic hardship, for instance, just strikes you down like lightning from the sky. Very few people are prepared for that. It was a coincidence that led me to my first squatted community too, and most of the others as well. It's a great story, by the way. Great, funny, even funny story, and very rewarding, inspiring story. Once again, you can read all about it, both in my books and my online writing. And I believe I have something to offer. That online writing and my writing have something to offer humanity. Of course, I'm not the only one. There are millions of us, at least millions, that have experienced a different world, like we should present to everyone. We are in direct competition, if you like, with the madman governing our current human society, inhuman society. I usually says inhuman, but not in all cases. But it's far more accurate, really, than the rosy descriptions we see from establishment forces. There is no reason for to praise the current society at all. On the contrary, it's so fucked up that almost any other solutions are better. But we don't need to settle for those lesser solutions, because we have the great solutions on our hand already. So it's just so if you can be without your 9 to 4 work, your hard 9 to 5 work, and manage to put food on the table in a different manner, which is also entirely possible. I've done it most of my life, actually, even though there have been some periods of extreme poverty, if you like. But I've always managed to do most of what I've been doing because I don't demand too much of life. I can manage without all the luxuries, and I have. Even when I had some money, I didn't buy those luxuries. I didn't buy a new car, for instance, because you get so very lazy when you have a car. It can be useful. I do have a driver's license, just to say that, and I'm glad I have. I could drive around the United States, especially the Western United States, an entire summer because of that, which I certainly appreciate. Because in the United States, you can't go get around by bus, really. So I'm very happy that I had my driver's license then. But most of the travels I've been doing by bus and train. I've traveled worldwide. The only time I used a plane was to cover the divide in Central America, because it's dangerous to walk through there. That divide. There is no road. There are no way of civilized travel at all. So you need to walk if you are going to cross that divide between South America and North America. So I took a plane there. But aside from that, throughout my trip through South America to Central and South America, I took a bus ride or a train ride, both through Western and Eastern America, Southern America, the Americas, if you like. So that was great, rewarding, and I met so many great people. I've met so many great people all over the world. And also many of those who have managed to liberate themselves from their upbringing, which is crucial, essential, of course. If you are stuck in your upbringing, you don't get anywhere except being a wage slave, which is pretty much a slave, anyway. I've had a few jobs, but paid jobs, but not that many, really. And I said, it's as I stated, it's a matter of preferences. Do you want to be stressed out? Do you want to be totally exhausted every day, every weekend, when you finally have completed a 5-day workload? Or do you want the life? I chose the latter in my 20s, in my early 20s, and I haven't looked back at all. Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
you changed your batteries, Robert? No. Okay,
yeah,
going so.
he was charging his batteries. Hello,
Yes.
Nanda, and hello, Annette. Nanda, I was thinking while you were speaking that we live in such a weird and strange world where we may be collapsing like in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, something the entire industrial society may go down the drain. But at the same time, what you talked about with people being able to speak their own language, even local and tribal languages, uh, in just 1 year from now, it's perfectly possible that that we can speak into this X Spaces app in our own dialect, language, whatever, and it comes out in the language of the other people in the room. You know, regardless of what they speak, right? So we are sort of becoming more and more complex and quote unquote wonderful, and at the same time we are sort of on the cliff edge of the abyss, right? With going back to the Stone Age. So that's kind of a very fascinating and very exciting period to be a part of, and it's kind of epic in the way that you almost have to write a novel about that kind of, or some poems at least, about that kind of contrasts, right? You know, in one person's life. Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to say, because I'm kind of tired after researching the tipping point report last night, is also about this very space, or these spaces in themselves, because I was reading on Substack on friendly, adjacent, and collapse and climate spaces. Now I'm in Substacks, so we had a little discussion there, and it turned out that all of us talking there, we had one thing in common, and that was that we had no people in our city or in our country that we could actually speak to or talk with about these things, about these climate things and these very disturbing things. And then it kind of dawned on me that maybe that's one of the key uses of a space like this, right? That the people from their city, from a different country, etc., who have nobody in their life that they can, talk for more than 1 minute about climate with, we can come here and hang out, right? And I also told them that I am happy that I have Amos, from my own country, Norway, when I still live there. So I actually do have one real life friend who I met and slept on the couch at, etc. So I'm kind of in the luxury of having one, right? If you have zero, it's very sort of daunting. But if you have one friend like that, that makes all the difference, right? And it's almost the same as back in the school days. If you are kind of let's just call it a special kid, right? Like an emo or goth kid or just alternative music kid or whatever. It's such a big difference to have one close, very good friend on that school or in that class, compared to just have zero and you're the only freak in your class, right? So those kinds of things we should all learn to appreciate when we have one friend, right? Because one is what do you call that? The sideways eight figure is called the infinitely. One is infinitely more than zero when it comes to friendships and relationships and stuff. So that's all I have tonight. I hope to come stronger, return stronger next week. But I give the talking stick back to you guys.
Thanks. Indeed. Excuse me while I clear my voice. Thanks, Going South. In fact, I'm going to take a vocal pause. I do want to hear what Nanda has to share with us again on the microphone. Nanda, welcome back on the microphone. Great points before what you need to share with us again, my friend.
Thank you. Yes, I was just listening to you Going South, and for me, again, it's gonna be the one who is gonna bring it. For example, if you are talking about in the future, we're all gonna understand each other. Probably you're talking about artificial intelligence, and there are my worries because all the data centers they are in the global south, and the greatest use of water that requires they're not using no, they're not reusing the water. No, they need pure and clear and fresh and hopefully running water. So, I mean, it's absolutely nonsense. So there we need to put pressure. The people who we like the technology and we use it, we should put pressure to our politicians or to, well, I don't know, write letters or whatever. I mean, change the technology. It's destroying us. I mean, including Africa, including Asia, and including South America, especially the more advantaged countries like Chile, where I come from. They're putting a lot of crazy sizes of data centers, like ridiculous. It's like the amount of water per minute that they use is just, oh my goodness. It's like we are in a scarcity. We are in difficult times of our own um, let's say, use of water. But these centers, they cannot not have water to cool down the servers. So it's like there is something need to change now, like right now. That's it. I appreciate your compliments, Robert and Going South, for what I say, but I don't think it's very pretty sometimes. I always come with this kind of revolutionary kind of vibe, but it's because it's for me. We need to change our ways, and we need to change our uses and what we do with our needs in this side of the planet. To be honest, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just a short answer to that. I'm thinking, I totally agree with you, Nanda. But I'm also thinking that we are tiny, tiny ants on a planet of 8.3 billion people, and we are not holding the ropes of power as it is right now. We have to be real, right? So I think, despite it being a bad idea and resource madness, etc., etc., and despite we're heading completely into collapse, all of our societies and cities and nations, it will still be, as I said, that in 1 year, maybe 2 years, but I think in 1 year, we can just talk into this thing in Norwegian, in Spanish, in Aramaic, the language Jesus spoke, or old Roman language, whatever, and it will be like nothing. It will be like, after a week, everybody will just think about it like it was always like that, right? And then they will forget about how amazing that is technologically. So I'm not disputing what you said. Absolutely not. I'm just saying that regardless of what anyone in this room wants or how we would like to crush and demolish those data centers, I still think it will be a reality in 1 year from now. And I guess, like Amos having still a driver's license, you're
Yeah.
kind of going to use that feature if it exists, because why shouldn't you if everybody else is using it? I don't know. It's kind of morally and ethically complicated, but I think
No,
that's
I'm not saying
yeah.
that it shouldn't be data centers. Don't get me wrong. I'm only talking about the technology. As I said, it's very difficult to destroy them. But what I'm saying is that the technology right now is not advantage enough, even though there is possibilities to make it better. That instead of using water running through, why not to reuse the water that is already in the system? That's my point. Is for me that's kind of what's the point.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I'm critical to technology also because in many ways it doesn't really work that well. I don't believe it will be able to translate language effortlessly at all. Um, uh, I guess if they get if they get enough power, uh, data power, if you like, they will eventually manage such things. But usually, all such stuff doesn't work. If you translate anything today at all. It will look like shit, quite frankly. And me as an author, is very pissed at that. You can't translate a foreign language. I read Nietzsche, also Sprach Zarathustra, in German because I couldn't stand the translation. The translation sucked, and that was a human being that had $1 million each year to translate books. And that person should have been great at it, but he sucked at it. And all translation sucks. It's you need to, if you're going to write something in a given language, you have to write that in a given language. That's one reason of many why I started writing in English, because I couldn't stand my work being ruined by a translator. And that was and I have far more faith in human translators than I have in technology. I've always been critical to technology, and I always will be. Computers, for instance, I will always be awkward in their presence. I've learned to use them, to use them as a tool, but I don't really feel comfortable doing it. I never will. They have helped me a lot with my with the publishing of my books and so on, but there is a limit to what technology can do, and we pretend that technology, just like those people claiming that technology if can solve the climate change and the extinction and everything. Everything I see makes it worse. Technology have made it worse because our ability to destroy has just grown. So now I am not looking forward to free translator 1 year or 2 years or 500 years from now. For that matter, the thing we should do is to improve between ourselves, from human to human. That's the solution. That's the obvious solution, of course. So yes, I hate translations, and I hate translators. Absolutely, the person that should be communicating with other people should learn that language if they want to. I learned Spanish in a week when I traveled through South America. It wasn't perfect, of course, but I did it. So it is possible if you really dive into it, if you immerse yourself in the task, you can do it. But you shouldn't trust your life to machines. You do that too much. This is my rant for the evening, really. If you believed what I said earlier was a rant, you're mistaken. This is my rant for the evening. Machines are bad for us. All kinds of machines.
I can speak
at the very least, advanced machines.
I can speak Spanish, or I can speak what sounds to myself like Spanish, but I don't think anybody in the world can understand what I mean when I'm talking Spanish. So
of course,
that's the only thing I can say is "Let's go to the beach." I think, but that was the title of a pop song in the 1980s. So that's like "Vamos a la playa" or something. But that's kind of what you need when you're on holiday. That's all you need, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Going south. And thanks for that, Amos. I am at one with you, brother. I will honestly say that the situation with machines is a very difficult one for me to take on board, and continues to be. Where I know the computers are what call in my world of understanding, I call computers a lot of the time a necessary evil, of which the evil intent is very dexterous, very alive, and very all-encompassing, and very great, and will continue to be so. I do not trust the world in which it capacitates itself. We have a world, a modern world, which relies far, far too much on the total manipulation to every single nuance and particle of machinery in computers, and indeed technological reliance beyond anything what I would call sensible and reasonable. We become absolutely indoctrinated with the technological craze, if you will, and it has become at a cost not only to our mental thinking across the board, from country to country, from person to person, from to society to society. We have become so reliant on technology that it is my belief, and I continue to believe this, that it is actually systematically altered our thought patterns and our ability to act not just with common sense, but to act with an understanding not just of what is right and wrong, but I also believe that technology has fundamentally ruined our brain's capacity to take on board knowledge is truthful, honest, decent, and indeed all encompassing, with the difference between right and wrong. We have become so indoctrinated by indeed machinery and indeed this technological age. It has, as I've said, just ruined our thought processes in their entirety. That is my honest, truthful appraisal of how far down the road I see we have come. Yes, we have created great strides on the technological landscape. I am not denying otherwise. Yes, we have created what I call, to many millions of people who would call it, a technological utopia. Yes, maybe, but we have also sacrificed so much mentally, so much ethically, and so much morally, and so much internally within said capacities, that it is positively more destroying in its given content than ever it was a giver of what I call rightful purpose. Bear with me, John. We will get you on that microphone in a minute or two, brother. I'm just indeed observing a few more what I call observations of a technical nature as we continue. This room space, I know, will be closing shortly, so I do want to add a little more content, if I may, into this proceedings that we have here. I do want to say, Nanda, indeed, you mentioned very dexterously that your observations can be radical. I welcome that. You cannot be radical enough in my capacity. I believe that the more radical we are, with the more freedom of thought and the more free spirited, with a clear and concise mental content of which you enable and possess and put forward very beautifully, if I may say so. And I think it is to the greater good of explaining oneself with the conviction and the intensity of thought, however fierce that might be. It is totally welcomed. And it will continue to be so, because to my mind, us as individual people have a statement to make. We have a duty to tell it like it is. I tell it like it is every single day since I've been on this X platform since 2018, talking about environmental and indeed ecological and climate and human rights matters in any given way that you could possibly imagine vocally it being transferred to word, as we continue, of course, talking about the things of which you will not hear your media talking to you about. Why won't you hear your media talking about it? Because they have been bought and sold and paid up fully by the extraction industry. Something that I always like to get in there, because I always want to bring as wide a global audience to my words as possible. The reason media fail you is the usual reasons. It's why people like ourselves continue to be the vocal beacons of dexterity in their entirety, because we have to be, because we have no choice. We have to continue to say it loud, and we have to continue to cover everything with truth, with honesty, with integrity. It's what we do best. And we will continue to do it because the things have to be talked about and they have to be said. We do not shy away from our responsibilities. We take them deadly seriously because we are dealing with the most serious elements of a non functioning society and a global planetary situation of which you could ever imagine taking place. And that is the problem, you see. This is something I will elaborate on in your next live space going south. The fact of I want to talk more about AI, I want to talk more about water, data centers, and what I believe is the technological compass for all the wrong reasons of the wrong decisions and the wrong planning, indeed, within those systems. Having said that, I'm taking a pause. John, thank you for being patient, brother. Welcome back to the microphone. What would you like to share with us in the room?
Yeah, because we got on to the language topic, so I was thinking like a compromise, because going south was just kind of giving us like a cute app or whatever. Um, but there's like, there's real language exchange activities, and maybe spaces could actually be one of those things. I actually haven't come across language exchange rooms, but yeah, I live in a country where there's two official languages, and then, but that doesn't play out everywhere is fully bilingual. It's like regional. There's provinces that have, that the official language is one language, and then the other one. Then I live in a city that everyone is the history and everything. It's like officially kind of bilingual, sort of, and then because there's so much immigration and people from different places, then it's very, very common to have three languages. And then it's actually maybe less common, but it's still frequent. People with two parents from different places, and then they speak four languages. And then people who have four languages, and then they hang out in a community where they're not tied to it, but then they speak a fifth language. And then that becomes this thing where it's like a celebration of like all the languages you could learn. And so I feel like, that's a very human thing. And I don't, yeah, I kind of agree on this avoiding. I mean, I think with machine learning and LLMs, there's some really important stuff in scientific advancement and discovery. And I think it really should be left to qualified people. I don't think it's something that every single person just being bored and not knowing what to do at that moment should ask an AI to tell them what to do, and how to feel. It's like, it's like, it's almost like having crack. It's like giving everyone like these, like, it's really bad for you because you're going to forget all the things. Like, you're going to forget how to, well, maybe it's not true. I'm just saying there's a danger that you take the easy way out and then you don't actually learn. Like, maybe there's AI tools to help you really learn in real life. But so I was just going to say, like, we should all be free to say things in other languages in these spaces, and then we just like hear languages from other parts of the world, and we just, and the other thing here is like in North America, I feel like we should really, well, at least I feel here, uh, we are used to so many accents that it just is, it's more about functionality of like if you're understood. And then I notice sometimes the languages from the original countries, they're very like precious about the accent. They're very kind of like specific to how you're supposed to speak. But I think we should just get rid of like any kind of judgment on accents, because that kind of removes a barrier for you to learn languages. You don't feel self-conscious. You should just speak how you speak, whatever it is, as long as it's understood. At that point, if it's not understood, then yeah, then there's like some extra written or something that has to happen. But And then I was just gonna say some anecdotes, like back when I did travel the world, I have this rare condition where if I eat certain foods, I'll die immediate, like within minutes or an hour or whatever. So I really have to avoid those foods. And then when you travel, you don't have a lot of access to your own stuff. So in advance, I would practice and learn the language of the host country in advance and get good at it, and then go and then sure, because in that kind of a situation, a person may just say, because you're speaking in English or something, they could just go yes, 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 and they don't really understand it, and then they go and something happens. So I learned how to say my stuff in Spanish, in German, in Croatian, uh, you know, multiple dialects in Chinese, like so. And ironically, the parts I had the most problems was in English speaking America and Australia. Because it wasn't about them understanding me; it was about them hearing me, kind of thing. So that's funny. But those are my thoughts. Like, we're still using the app, the technology of Spaces, but we're not giving into just letting it speak. And the other thing is, like, yeah, sometimes it's not accurate. So how would we know if it's not accurate? What happens if it doesn't translate correctly? Then the other person thinks that it's correct. So these are the problems I'm thinking about.
But you get that with English as well. I get into that kind of problems all the time. It's like I say something that is pretty straightforward and easy to understand, I think, but all the other people think, oh, no, he's just being a dick. Now he's just boasting. Now he's just blah, 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 right? So I have studied what the Scandinavians call information science, which is like communication, data science, etc. And you have these communication models that you say something, and that's the voice or data or whatever travels, and then the receiver receives something. It's not the same as what you say, and it's all kinds of preconceptions and prejudice and what they expect that you're going to say, right? So it's very, very complex, even if you speak the same language, actually. So yeah, but I just think that it's going to happen, and it will be in X Spaces because it's like what's he called again? The guy, the Enon, whatever. He will implement it. I'm pretty sure he will be one of the first to implement it, and he has, just like YouTube or whatever. He has thousands, millions of people talking every night on these apps. So I'm pretty sure if it happens, it will be on this app. And I don't know about the thing you said about AI and crack, the comparison. I think it's pretty brilliant. I read the same book, German book, as Amos, as a teenager. Also sprach Zarathustra, Friedrich Nietzsche, and it's pretty cool to be able to refresh that reading with an AI and ask about stuff, and the AI, it knows everything. Every book that's written about Nietzsche knows everything under the sun. So you can ask, but did he really have a girlfriend? And what was her name? And how long did that last? Right? You can ask all kinds of stupid questions, uh, things that you always wondered and uh, never dared to ask anyone. And it's pretty fantastic. And you don't even need to take a bus or your car to the library. You can just ask all those stupid questions about the personal life of a philosopher who died 200 years ago, right? And you get an answer in 2 seconds. It's pretty darn amazing. I can't help it. I'm disgusted with civilization and sometimes with AI and stuff. But I'm also like I'm the biggest fan of civilization, and I think that's kind of the human, what do you call it? Human situation, whatever.
The human condition, the modern
condition.
human
Yeah,
condition.
it's just complex, and makes no sense, etc. But that's like being alive. Back to John.
Yeah. Maybe it's the type of particular what are they called, chats or models, because I was using one and I was this was I'm still very open minded, but I was like, okay, I'm an artist, and they're using this to generate things that are kind of in competition with my thing. So why don't I learn science? Why don't I like brush up and make sure I, as I go more back into the like less into digital art and more into real traditional contemporary methods again. Let me brush up on my material science so that I can like innovate stuff. And this chat got confused between convection and conduction. I had to correct it because I was like, don't you mean convection? Because and then it like it, it was one of those ones that talks sort of in a human way, so it was like apologized, but I just felt, and then this particular chat didn't list its sources, so it was kind of like a big blend of maybe everything it read, and maybe it read something that was completely wrong, And it gave me this answer, and if I hadn't already known something, like because my family, they're mostly scientists, so I have to know these things just from sitting at the dinner table growing up, So it just felt a little bit like, well, good thing I knew that. But what if I was just trying to learn it for the first time? Then I would have been totally confused. I wasn't asking about material science. I was asking about like airflow, you know, how's air exchange. I was just trying to get a detail down. So, then I kind of like it was just one of the extra reasons to add to all this environmental damage, air pollution, water usage, training for weapons. It's like there's too many things on the list that makes me go, I'm going to pause this at the least. Maybe in medical settings, very complex research where they're like analyzing all the studies in these very, very difficult to analyze ways. I'm in favor of that stuff, but it just becomes this very precious resource that we got to think about. But yeah, I see that it's an eventuality for sure. I just feel like there's so many things in our current life as well, and like I'm a hypocrite as well. I spend all my time in these climate spaces, and there's things I do that are bad, for it. So I'm not saying on a personal level it's like judgment or whatever, but we all have personal choices, and I would rather, if I can, also because I'm at a certain point in life where I know I can learn things, and I'm going to keep my brain active, and I'm going to keep discovering things actually on my own, sort of, which is very rewarding. And then this AI stuff, I would like it to be like I have a choice. I can opt out. I could choose my data is not being used. I can, but it doesn't seem like they're just stuffing it in, and you don't even want it sometimes. So those are my thoughts on that, and just I guess yeah, the environmental impacts and the war usage is the reason I like stopped even experimenting with it. But there's scientists that I do talk to that they use Perplexity, and it's like all the sources are listed, and I like that a little
It's pretty
better
good.
because yeah.
I would just want to comment here because we talked last week and also this week about Annalena Baerbock, the the leader of the German Greens, quote unquote, not really green, but you know, in the years leading up to the war between Russia and Ukraine, she was the biggest warmonger in Europe, maybe the biggest in the known galaxy, and she absolutely wanted to and wants to invade Moscow. Like another German I can think of about 80 years ago. So just don't beat yourself up about using AI because the most powerful Green Party person this year, this time, she wants to send Tomahawk missiles into Russia. She already sent all the tanks that Germany had in their arsenal to fight the proxy war against Russia in Ukraine. And this is not about who is the best or right or wrong in that conflict. Absolutely not. You can believe whatever you want. But being a Green Party leader and loving war and using every chance, every minute of the day to antagonize the biggest nuclear power in the world, this is not green at all. This has nothing to do with ecology or climate or whatever. It's just insanity, and we celebrate her. We allow her to be the president of the United Nations General Assembly, where she started last month, and she is now the top candidate to be Secretary General when the current guy leaves office in February. So it's absolutely insane. They're lying. Their twisted kind of green politics is twisted, to say the least. So absolutely don't beat yourself up about using an app on your phone. That must be like 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000,000 times smaller than whatever the Green Party is doing in Germany. So that's just my little rant tonight. Do we want to talk more, or should we round this up? What do you
One more thing, really. My thing is that I don't really trust. We shouldn't trust them. It's a faulty thing, of course, but also a devious thing. If we get used to use that, we are fucked further, really. And then there is the thing about the translation again, like I speak about, and how information is distorted in today's society. And with the AI, it will just keep distorting itself, really. As I said, we should focus on human relations. And AI is not human relations. It never will be. Thank you. Yes, we should go now. It has been a very interesting meeting, of course, as usual. In spite of me being out of with technical difficulty for 15 minutes at least. So, but I could catch up quickly as usual. So that isn't the problem. But again, it is great that we come together like that. Also, that total strangers come together. I always valued that a lot. Really, when I'm out traveling, I meet new people all the time. And of course, there will be some, when you learn a new language, there will always be a period of hesitation, awkwardness and stuff. But when you learn your 6th or 7th language, that is no longer the case. So we don't really need the crutches of civilization. They are bad for us. On the contrary, they are bad for us. And that's directly concerning what we are talking about all the time, the collapse and stuff, and the horrible society we live in, and so on. The solution will never be technological, will never be advanced technology. And in addition to that, there is that we can't trust it at all, not directly even. We just when someone speaks or we hear something, we have a tendency to believe that person, even though, but it isn't then that person speaking. Like in the scenario you spoke of, it's the AI that is speaking.
I would
And
like
we
to
shouldn't.
say thank you, John, for bringing up an interesting topic, and also Nanda, who was kind of inspiring me to go in the direction of AI. And it's great to see you. I always like to have returning people, because then we get to know each other, and it's kind of great in that way. I would
Oh,
just
yes.
I would just ask Robert to take us out in your special way. Let's say 5 minutes, perhaps. Can I wish for 5 minutes?
Well, I certainly do. Probably a minute or so going south. I do need charge in the phone, and I don't want to be cut off. Excuse me, prematurely. So I will be brief on my farewell wave, as it were. And it will be very brief, I do have to say, because of my constraints with power. I want to thank my brilliant co-host, Amos, for joining me here. I want to thank you, Going South, for being a brilliant host, as always, on this live Wednesday space. I want to thank Yaz, John, Nanda, Annette, and Extinctionati. I want to thank everyone who's graced our presence here in this live space today. Thank you all for continuing to be the voice of change and reason, understanding, education, and indeed your own unique talents and special qualities that make these vocal discussions so vital, so needed, so indeed all encompassing at every conceivable level. I thank everyone for your content. It is needed, and it will continue to be needed. Make no mistake about that. We are living in the most turbulent and life threatening and life changing times in social and indeed moral and indeed ethical and indeed the history of all elements at every conceivable level. And as things continue to be steered off the cliff, as I continue to have to say these words, not that I want to, but because they are part and parcel of reality, let's continue, those of us that are listening out of this space, to remember and hold on to reality tightly, because it is, at the end of the day, the thing that will make the difference between your life and saving it and your death if you do not hold on to the reality of indeed the ecological, indeed the environmental and the climate emergency. My words indeed ring out, and they should do, like beacons and sirens, because they need to across our planet. Until next Wednesday, Going South, when we do it all again live in Amos, thank you, everyone. My words indeed, bringing to the end of the brilliant space proceedings Going South, and the microphone back to you, brother. Thank you again.
Thank you, everybody, and see you next Wednesday. And invite a friend or somebody who is into climate stuff, and let's grow this group, but not grow it super huge, but let's grow it to maybe 10-15 people. That's maybe ideal, I think. Okay, take care, everybody, and have a great autumn week. And I hope the temperature goes down where you are, as it should. Bye.
Thanks, Going South. Take care, Amos. Bye for now.